3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Personnel, Public Information, Human Relations, and Veterans Committee. I will kick things off with the motion, and we'll do the roll call on the motion, which will also serve as the roll call for the committee because I'm detecting we have a quorum. The motion is pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order number 65 regarding electronic meetings. I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Do I have a second on that motion? And I do believe I have a second from Councilmember Roberts. So we are ready to vote, and that will be a roll call vote. Councilmember Roberts. Aye. Vice Chair Hauser.
Here, I didn't know I was vice chair.
You are indeed. You have been the vice chair.
Okay, I did not know that. No one mentioned it to me. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I believe you may have. Yeah, it's been a while back since I asked you, and we haven't talked about it. But yes, you are indeed. Okay. The chair votes aye. Councilmember Suara.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember Taylor with us. I thought I saw him before. Maybe he's not right now. Councilmember Withers. And Councilmember Young.
Aye.
And the motion passes. On to our agenda. We have one bill on second reading, and I believe there's also an amendment to that bill. But it is BL 2024-94 by Stiles. It amends the Metro Code relative to the use of license plate scanners by law enforcement for the prosecution of reckless drivers. Councilmember Stiles, you are recognized on the bill.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this amendment now has in it a sunset date of 180 days. So proposing to do a pilot for 6 months. There were trailers that are able to capture both speed and license plates and are able to go across 2 lanes on each side if we were to put them in a median, as well as clear language regarding surveillance, not being able to use the system for that, designating who would have access to information, getting rid of non-offender data in 30 days. So those are the updates.
Okay, let's go ahead and get a motion on the bill so we get the actual amendment before us. Do we have a motion on the bill? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, properly motioned and seconded. We are on the amendment itself. And I'll ask Councilmember Stiles if you would walk us through what the amendment itself does to the bill.
So the original bill just said that we were going to use license plate readers to combat the drag racing problem without a lot of specificity. So this amendment has in it that the system cannot be used to invade privacy or for surveillance purposes. Data for non-offenders is discarded after 30 days, that this would be a pilot program for 6 months for us to check the efficacy and also be able to see how the audit trail system works for the system.
Okay, are there any further questions from the committee?
Chair.
Councilmember Suara.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a question. I'm not a big fan of license plate readers, and I think I've said so much, but I want to applaud the sponsors for the effort that she's taking to address most of the concerns in terms of what the data is used for, the privacy, not using it for surveillance, as well as making sure that there is a date after which the record is expunged, or at least so that the data is not there anymore. And so I do applaud that for that. Now, is there any way that we can, how do we make sure that that does happen in terms of the data being canceled or deleted after that 30 days for non-offenders? Is there any way to make sure that happens?
Councilmember Styles.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for the question. Yes, there is. In fact, should this go through and we adopt this, when we set up the trailer system, it will be connected with MMPD, but the way it gets set up, we can assign someone from council, one or two people that would also be able to go into the system and be able to check the audit trails. And you're able to see in real time who's using the system and what actions they've taken. The system itself flags for any inappropriate behavior, such as surveilling without a cause.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Councilmember Young, I see your hand is raised. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I might need to wait until the amendment is adopted, because I think some of my questions are more about the bill overall. So I'll wait until we adopt the amendment.
Let's move forward then. Are there any further questions on the amendment itself? Then if not, do we have a motion on the amendment?
Chair, point of order. I believe we do have a motion already.
We had a motion on the bill. I don't believe we've had a motion on the amendment.
Oh, I thought we did. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Are you making a motion on the amendment?
I'm so moved. Yes, move the amendment.
The amendment has a motion and properly seconded. Then we are ready to vote. I will call the roll for the vote on the amendment. We are on the amendment itself. Councilmember Roberts.
Aye.
Councilmember Hauser. Vice Chair Hauser, are you with us?
Sorry, I thought that I said aye.
Okay.
I figured she was off celebrating being the vice chair.
Yes.
Hey, listen.
And the chair votes aye. Councilmember Sora.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor. Says he joined. I don't see him. Councilmember Withers.
Aye.
Councilmember Young.
Aye.
And the amendment passes. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 in favor, 1 is not present. Okay, now we are now on the bill. Councilmember Young, I'll go back to you as you had a bill specific question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm kind of curious, since we're going to be, or this legislation would allow some of this to happen, but is there any promise of this actually happening, or is there a provision for funding this? Because I know the speed trailers that have been referenced, it's my understanding the speed trailers are actually part of Public Works and what they do with some traffic calming projects. And so I don't know, is this going to then require the acquisition of speed trailers by the police department in addition to acquisition and construction of the cameras? Where do we plan to find that money? What is an appropriate cost? I guess more than anything, I want to make sure that everyone is clear, especially the public, that this legislation could open the door to allow this, but it's not necessarily guaranteeing or funding it the way I understand it. So I'm maybe Councilwoman Stiles can educate me a little.
Councilmember Stiles.
You're muted, Councilwoman.
Sorry about that. So we actually, taxpayers would not have to pay for this pilot. There are two different companies that have systems that we can use, and both of those systems have an opportunity to be taken care of financially for us. One organization is a nonprofit called A Safer Nashville. They have volunteered to take care of the cost for the 6 months. And then there's also another security company that they're willing to let us use them for 6 months as well as a trial.
Councilmember Young, did you have anything further on that?
Yes, sir. And thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I mean, that leads me then to wonder, even if there will be some sort of trial or donated, I mean, would we not still have to go through a procurement process? Because I guess what concerns me about the issue of a 6 month trial per se is what exactly are the terms of the agreement to have them as a trial? And if we opt the 6 months later not to continue with that particular vendor, are we then going to be responsible for having to pay them to remove them or pay for that 6 months? Or I guess I just want to make sure that this is kind of nailed through, because it is, you know, a little out of the ordinary, I guess, for us to have some sort of new technology like that and to initially not have to spend any money on it.
Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for your question, Councilmember Young. So no, this is of no cost to us after the trial at all. This is really for the purpose for us to try this system out and see if it works for Davidson County. Because there are community concerns in terms of privacy and surveillance, this gives us an opportunity to show how the system works, how it can be used, and how it can't be used. And fiscally, it is not a cost to us at all.
Council or Vice Chair Hauser, I see your hand is raised. Do you have a question?
Yes. As a trial, what is the criteria that it's successful and we want to continue, or we decide that we need to make augmentations? I don't know that I have seen anything to that regard. Can you possibly enlighten me on that?
Am I okay, Chair, to respond?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I was looking for new hands.
No worries. Councilmember Hauser, it's set up so at the 1 month before the end of the trial, we can go in and take a look at the data. The amendment, forgive me, is set up so we can go and take a look at the data and see if we can see a change in terms of the behavior and if we've had success. And we can make that determination if we would want to continue at the end of 180 days or if we wanted to cease with the program entirely.
And Councilmember Sora, I see your hand. Do you have a new question or comment?
Yes, I think the question by Councilmember Young about the funding that now shows that it's private funding leads me to the question of, if this is not our asset, if it's not owned by us, how much control do we have over it, whether it's the equipment or the data itself? And how do we ensure that this private company that we don't have any control of because it's their private funding, how do we ensure the security and the safety of the data when we're not the one funding it? It's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Zwara, so when the system is set up, it will be connected to MNPD. They will have the permissions to work the system. And as I was saying, in terms of potentially 1 or 2 council members also being able to have access to visually go in and see how things are running. No one is holding on to this data. The data would belong to the system, MNPD. It is only being financed by the private company. No one is taking any data whatsoever. It is all private. And at the end of 30 days, every single time non-offender information is deleted.
Thank you.
Young, is that an old hand?
No, Mr. Chair, it's actually a new hand.
Then you are newly recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Glad to be here with my new and old hands. Apologize, I lost my train of thought, goofing around. I don't know if this is, I suppose Councilmember Stiles could take a jab at this, but it might be more for legal counsel. I know in the state of Tennessee, the state legislature has made some laws pertaining to cameras on traffic and violations and just some of the legalities around that. I'm not completely aware of how it would work in this situation. Only memory is regarding like the red light cameras in some cities around here, but I'm curious if, have we checked to make sure that what we're trying to do here is not going to conflict with Tennessee code, and what sort of citations could be issued? Would they be limited to non-moving citations, since there's not necessarily an actual sworn officer witnessing, or how exactly does that part work? Would be of use to me. Thank you.
Councilmember Stiles, would you want to take that, or would you rather defer to council legal staff?
I would like to take that, Chair. So,
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Councilmember Young, there is nothing currently that this is in conflict with. And in fact, I believe that there are conversations about utilizing LPRs on the state level. I'm not sure about the specifics. This is something that I came upon in my research. And these are all moving violations that people would be stopped for. This is not a new law that would be going into effect to use this. So non-moving violations would not be included.
Councilmember Young, do you have follow-up?
I do, and I promise I'm not trying to delay this, Mr. Chair. This is just kind of nothing new to everyone. So I guess maybe I misunderstood at first. The way I understood you just then, Councilwoman Stiles, so there would actually be an officer that would then make a traffic stop and write a citation. I guess maybe I don't understand exactly what that process would be if the camera in conjunction with a speed trailer caught, so to speak, or observed a car or reckless driver. Then how does that work? Because I guess for me, I thought the way the license plate readers work, from what I've understood from some special called meetings we've had, is that the license plate readers are only looking for license plate numbers that have been preloaded into that system of a quote hot list, if you will. And it's looking for those, and it's not necessarily taking a photograph of every license plate that goes by. And so it's quite possible that I misunderstood how this technology and process would work for what we're attempting to solve in Southeast. So I guess on a more elementary level, Councilmember Stiles, could you kind of explain how exactly it would work? Say I am driving my car recklessly and go down the road through an area where this technology is installed.
Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again for the question, Councilmember Young. So this would work, the speed, the trailer would capture speed, and at the same time, it would also be able to run a license plate to be sure that that car or the license plate was not stolen. And so the system of using LPRs it goes back to the base within a matter of about 5 or 6 seconds. And then it goes out to the officer saying, this particular vehicle went through past this camera or trailer, whichever system you're using. And then officers are able to figure out, okay, how can we get to that vehicle? Who's close to that car? And then that's how they will pursue someone for a citation.
But
Councilmember
I
Young,
thought this was about, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, go ahead if you have a follow up, but we do need to move on pretty quickly.
Yeah, I guess I thought the problem we're trying to solve is drag racing and reckless driving. So I guess I'm not sure that this does anything to solve that. And that's as much of a question as it is just kind of my final thoughts.
Well, Councilmember Stiles, before you answer that, I have a question myself that may go along with that as well. I know this is not the only license plate reader bill that's been filed. There's a new bill on first reading, and if you've had an opportunity to take a look at that, can you address at this point in time how yours is different than the other one? Is this a different take than that? And how closely do you align with, say, what they're doing in Belmead?
Okay, Chair, I'm going to answer Councilmember Young's question, and then I'm going to answer your question.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, Councilmember Young. So I wanted to be able to show an additional use for the license plate reader. So I joined the hot list along with capturing license plates for being out of compliance with reckless driving. So that's how those two come together. My bill, Councilmember Rutherford, it's narrow just so that we can introduce license plate readers, but also give an opportunity to show how the system audits, because that's part of the concern that the community has. My understanding of the other bill that it's being introduced tonight is more broad in the uses of license plate readers, and that makes several community groups uncomfortable. So I wanted to present something that could be in the middle of the road for everyone to introduce these tools.
So are you saying then that you want to be more limiting, a more narrow approach to what the license plate reader has the capability of doing, or what the police can do with them?
It's narrow for the purpose of the trial. Should the trial go well, then we could talk about expanding that. But the trial would be very useful to let people see how it works, potentially get comfortable, and then have an expanded conversation. From my conversations with several individuals and groups, people aren't comfortable with a broad use of license plate readers right now. Does that answer your question?
It does for the moment, yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Young, I'll say again, is that an old hand?
That, my friend, was indeed an old hand.
Okay. Okay. Are there any further questions on the bill? Then we are ready to vote on the bill itself. Again, this is on second reading. Councilmember Roberts.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hauser.
Aye.
And the chair votes no. Councilmember Suara.
Abstain.
Councilmember Taylor, have you joined us? Councilmember Withers.
Aye.
Councilmember Young.
No.
And we have 3 ayes, 2 noes, and 1 abstention. And looks like the bill passes. Is there any further business before the committee?
Thank you, Chair.
Then we are adjourned. Thank you.